My beloved child. There are moments in life that arrive so quietly that no one notices them at first. No thunder. No warning. No dramatic announcement. Just one unexpected truth, finding the person who was never prepared to hear it. Today is one of those moments. Far away from where you are right now, someone who has carried your name deep inside their heart has just uncovered something about your journey that they never imagined. It was not a rumor. It was not a misunderstanding. It was a truth so heavy, so heartbreaking, that it shook everything they believed they knew about you. They always thought they understood your silence. They assumed they knew why you walked away from certain conversations, why your smile sometimes seemed to disappear without explanation, why your eyes carried a sadness that words could never fully explain. But they didn't. Not until now. The truth reached them in the most unexpected way. It wasn't because someone was trying to expose you. It wasn't because they went searching for answers. Sometimes life simply removes the curtain at exactly the right moment. And when that curtain fell, everything changed. They found themselves replaying every memory they had ever shared with you. Every conversation. Every goodbye. Every moment they thought you were being distant. Every time they believed you didn't care. One by one, those memories began changing their meaning. The words they once misunderstood suddenly carried an entirely different weight. Your silence no longer looked cold. It looked exhausted. Your distance no longer felt like rejection. It felt like survival. For the first time, they realized that while they were wondering why you weren't reaching out, you were fighting battles you never told anyone about. Battles that stole your sleep. Battles that drained your hope. Battles that forced you to smile while your heart quietly broke behind closed doors. The realization hit them so hard that they had to stop everything they were doing. Because suddenly, they couldn't breathe the same way anymore. Their heart wasn't breaking because they were angry. It was breaking because they had judged you without knowing your story. And now, the guilt is becoming almost impossible for them to carry. My beloved child. People often believe love is tested during beautiful moments. But true love is tested when hidden pain finally comes into the light. When someone discovers that the person they cared about was carrying impossible burdens completely alone. Everything changes. Your soulmate is experiencing that moment right now. At first they refused to believe what they had learned. No. This can't be true. There has to be another explanation. But every new piece they discovered only confirmed the reality. The picture became clearer. And with every answer, came another wave of heartbreak. Because now they understand why your energy changed. Why you became quieter. Why you stopped explaining yourself. Why sometimes you disappeared when your heart simply didn't have enough strength left to keep pretending everything was okay. They remember moments they once overlooked. Tiny details that didn't seem important before. Now those memories refuse to leave their mind. They remember that message you almost sent but never finished. They remember the hesitation in your voice. They remember how your eyes searched for understanding without asking for sympathy. They remember the day they thought you were simply busy. Now they realize. You were barely holding yourself together. If only they had known sooner. If only someone had told them. If only they had asked one more question instead of making one more assumption. Those thoughts continue repeating inside their heart like echoes they cannot silence. And every repetition hurts even more. Because regret has a way of growing louder once the truth arrives. My beloved child. There is something people rarely understand. Some of the strongest souls become experts at hiding pain. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because they never wanted to become someone else's burden. That was your mistake. You protected everyone else, while quietly carrying storms that were never meant to be carried alone. Your soulmate finally sees that. And the realization is leaving them emotionally undone. They cannot stop imagining everything you endured while pretending to be okay. They wonder how many nights you cried without anyone knowing. How many dreams you quietly buried because life demanded survival before happiness. How many times you chose silence instead of asking for help. Those questions have become impossible for them to ignore. They keep wondering. Where was I? Why didn't I notice? Why couldn't I see what was happening? Those questions don't have easy answers. But they continue asking them anyway. Because love often arrives carrying regret. Not regret for loving someone, but regret for not understanding them sooner. And tonight, that regret feels overwhelming. They sit alone with memories that suddenly feel completely different. Even the happiest moments now carry hidden sadness. Because they realize you smiled for them, even when your own heart needed saving. That thought has shattered something inside them. They've stopped focusing on what they lost. Now they're thinking about everything you lost before they ever realized what was happening. That realization has changed the entire story they had been telling themselves. But my beloved child, this heartbreaking discovery is only the beginning. Because what your soulmate decides to do after learning this truth will surprise even them. The next step they take will force them to confront every fear, every regret, and every emotion they have spent so long trying to avoid. And when that moment arrives, neither of your lives will ever be the same again. My beloved child, there is a moment after every painful revelation when the heart stands at a crossroads. One path whispers, "It's too late." The other whispers, "Fight for what still matters." Your soulmate is standing between those two voices right now. They have barely slept since learning the truth. Every quiet hour has become another opportunity for their mind to revisit the past, replaying conversations they once dismissed as ordinary. What once felt like insignificant moments now carry enormous meaning. A pause in your voice. A message that arrived later than expected. A smile that never quite reached your eyes. They see them all now. Not as random memories, but as silent cries they never recognized. The weight of that realization has become almost unbearable. For the first time, they are no longer asking what happened between the two of you. They are asking what happened to you. There is a difference. A profound difference. One question searches for blame. The other searches for understanding. And understanding has begun transforming their heart. The walls they spent so long building around their emotions are beginning to crumble. Every certainty they once held has dissolved into humility. They no longer feel confident in the conclusions they reached months ago. Instead, they feel something they haven't allowed themselves to feel in a very long time. Compassion. Not the kind that pities. The kind that listens. The kind that wishes it had arrived sooner. As this realization settles deeper into their soul, another truth begins to emerge. They remember the times you encouraged them even when your own spirit was weary. They remember how you celebrated their victories while quietly carrying disappointments of your own. They remember how you found words to comfort them, even on days when you yourself needed someone to say, "You're going to be okay." Suddenly, those memories overwhelm them. They cannot understand how someone carrying so much could still choose kindness. How someone hurting so deeply could still make room in their heart for another person. The answer leaves them speechless. Because that kind of love cannot be explained with ordinary words. It can only be felt. And now they are finally feeling it. Not as a distant memory, but as a living truth. The realization brings tears they never expected. Not because they believe you were perfect. Not because they imagine you never made mistakes. But because they now understand that behind every mistake was someone doing the best they could with a heart that had already been stretched beyond its limits. That understanding changes everything. My beloved child. Sometimes people mistake strength for the absence of pain. But true strength is continuing to love when pain has every reason to make you stop. Your soulmate now sees that your strength was never loud. It was quiet. It was found in every morning you chose to keep moving. Every day you refused to let disappointment define your future. Every act of kindness you offered despite carrying burdens no one else could see. Those hidden victories are becoming visible to them one by one. And each discovery leaves them more humbled than the last. For the first time, they are seeing you not through the lens of expectation, but through the lens of truth. That truth has softened their heart. The anger they once carried has disappeared. The confusion that clouded their judgment has begun to lift. In its place is an overwhelming desire to understand the chapters of your story they never bothered to read. They wish they could go back. Not to erase the past, but to stand beside you during the moments when you felt most alone. They imagine themselves choosing different words, different reactions, different decisions. They imagine noticing the sadness hidden behind your laughter. They imagine refusing to let you carry everything by yourself. But memories cannot be rewritten. Time only moves forward. And that reality hurts more than they expected. Yet even as regret presses heavily upon them, something unexpected begins awakening inside their heart. Hope. Small at first. Fragile. Almost impossible to notice. But it is there. Hope that perhaps understanding has not arrived too late. Hope that perhaps broken trust can still become honest conversation. Hope that perhaps hearts separated by misunderstanding can still find the courage to speak again. They don't know what the future holds. They don't know how you will respond. They don't even know whether they deserve another chance. But for the first time in a long while, they know one thing with absolute certainty. Running away from the truth is no longer an option. They must face what they have learned. They must face what they feel. And they must face the possibility that loving someone means showing up with humility instead of pride. What they are preparing to do next requires more courage than anything they have ever attempted before. Because it isn't just an apology they are considering. It is a complete surrender of the walls they once believed would protect them. They are about to reveal feelings they have hidden for far too long. And when those words finally leave their lips, the silence that has existed between your hearts may finally be broken. But before they can reach you, one unexpected event is about to unfold. An encounter they never saw coming will force them to question everything once again, and what they hear in that moment will either give them the courage to move forward, or make them fear they have already lost you forever. My beloved child. Just when your soulmate believed they had gathered enough courage to face the truth, life placed one final moment in their path, a moment they never expected, yet one that would leave a permanent mark on their heart. It happened quietly. There were no dramatic signs. No loud announcement. Only a simple conversation that began like any other. Someone who had crossed paths with your journey spoke your name with a tenderness your soulmate had never heard before. They didn't speak of your achievements. They didn't speak of your dreams. Instead, they spoke about your resilience. They described how, even while carrying burdens that would have broken many people, you continued encouraging others to keep going. They shared stories your soulmate had never known existed. Stories of quiet generosity. Stories of silent sacrifice. Stories of moments when you chose compassion, even when life had not shown compassion to you. Each sentence felt like another mirror being placed in front of them. The image they had created of you over time was slowly disappearing. In its place stood the real you. Not flawless. Not untouched by hardship. But remarkably brave. Your soulmate felt their chest tighten. How could they have missed this side of you? How could someone so close to your heart have overlooked the strength hidden beneath your silence? The answer was painful. Because sometimes we become so focused on what we expect someone to be that we fail to notice who they truly are. That realization humbled them completely. For a long time, they believed love meant being understood. Now they realize that love also means making the effort to understand. And they hadn't done enough. Those words echoed inside them with painful honesty. I should have listened. I should have asked. I should have stayed. Regret no longer came in waves. It settled deep within them like a quiet ache that refused to leave. Yet something remarkable was happening at the same time. The more they learned about your hidden struggles, the more admiration replaced regret. They stopped seeing you as someone who had drifted away. They began seeing you as someone who had survived storms without asking anyone to rescue them. That changed everything. For the first time, they no longer wanted answers simply for their own peace. They wanted to become the kind of person who could offer you peace. My beloved child. Growth often begins when pride finally surrenders. And your soulmate's pride is falling away piece by piece. They no longer care about who was right. They no longer replay old arguments looking for proof that they deserved sympathy. Those questions seem meaningless now. Because compared to everything you've carried, winning an argument feels insignificant. What matters now is healing. What matters now is truth. What matters now is whether two hearts that have been shaped by pain can still choose compassion over fear. As these thoughts filled their mind, they found themselves reaching for something they had avoided for far too long. Old messages. Old photographs. Small reminders of moments they once took for granted. They looked at them differently now. A picture that once made them smile now brought tears. A simple sentence you once sent suddenly revealed emotions they had completely misunderstood. How many times had you tried to express what was in your heart without saying it directly? How many quiet hints had they overlooked because they were too distracted by their own expectations? The questions seemed endless. But each answer carried the same message. You had never stopped caring. You had simply become tired of explaining pain that words could never fully describe. That realization broke whatever walls still remained around their heart. For the first time, they allowed themselves to cry not only for what had been lost, but for everything you had endured without anyone truly seeing it. Those tears were not a sign of weakness. They were the beginning of transformation. Because hearts that are willing to break for the truth are often the hearts most capable of genuine change. And change is exactly what is happening. Slowly. Quietly. Deeply. Your soulmate is no longer the same person they were before learning this truth. Every assumption has been replaced with curiosity. Every judgment has been replaced with empathy. Every fear has been replaced with a growing determination not to let silence write the final chapter of your story together. They know the road ahead may not be easy. Trust cannot be rebuilt overnight. Wounds do not disappear because someone finally understands them. Healing requires patience, consistency, humility. And they are beginning to understand that. They are preparing themselves to show up differently, not with promises that fade, but with actions that remain. Because they have discovered something they cannot ignore. Loving you is no longer about holding on to a dream. It is about honoring the person you truly are. But even as this new determination fills their heart, a single unexpected message is about to reach them. A message connected to your past. A message containing one final truth they never imagined. And once they read those words, there will be no turning back. Everything they thought was broken forever may suddenly have one last chance to be restored. My beloved child. The message arrived at a time when your soulmate wasn't expecting anything. They almost ignored it. It seemed ordinary. Just a few simple words. Nothing about it suggested that it would become one of the most unforgettable moments of their life. But something urged them to open it. As they began reading, their heartbeat slowed. Not because of fear, but because every sentence uncovered another layer of your story that had remained hidden for far too long. There was no bitterness in those words. No attempt to make anyone feel guilty. Only quiet honesty. It spoke of the choices you made when no one was watching. The opportunities you quietly walked away from because someone else needed them more. The nights you spent wondering whether anyone truly understood what your heart had been carrying. The countless moments when you wanted to explain everything but decided to remain silent because you believed your pain should never become someone else's burden. Your soulmate reached the end of the message and simply stared at the screen. They couldn't move. For several minutes, they didn't even realize tears were running down their face. Not dramatic tears. Not uncontrollable sobs. Just the silent tears that appear when the heart finally recognizes a truth it can no longer deny. In that stillness, one thought echoed louder than every other. They carried all of this, alone. Those words refused to leave. Again and again, they whispered through their mind. They carried all of this, alone. The weight of that realization settled deep inside them. For so long, they believed your silence meant distance. Now they understood it had often meant endurance. You weren't withdrawing because you didn't care. You were protecting pieces of yourself that had already been wounded too many times. That understanding transformed every memory they had of you. Even the smallest moments now felt sacred. The quiet smile you offered when your own heart was aching. The gentle encouragement you gave while carrying your own disappointments. The patience you showed when life gave you every reason to become bitter. None of it made sense before. Now it made perfect sense. My beloved child. One of the greatest gifts truth can offer is perspective. It cannot erase yesterday. But it can completely change the way yesterday is remembered. That is exactly what is happening now. Your soulmate no longer remembers your story through disappointment. They remember it through compassion. Every misunderstanding has become an invitation to learn. Every painful memory has become a reminder of how deeply two people can misread each other when fear speaks louder than honesty. As this new understanding grows, another realization quietly takes root. They begin asking themselves a different question. Not, why did this happen? But, what can I become because of what I've learned? That question changes everything. Because it shifts the focus from regret to responsibility. They cannot undo the past. But they can choose who they become from this moment forward. And the answer forming inside their heart is clear. They want to become someone who listens before assuming. Someone who stays when life becomes difficult. Someone who notices the quiet battles hidden behind a brave smile. Someone whose love feels safe instead of uncertain. That desire isn't born from guilt alone. It is born from admiration. The more they understand your journey, the more they respect the strength it took simply to keep going. You became stronger in places where life expected you to break. You continued believing in kindness even when disappointment knocked at your door. You continued hoping, even after seasons that tried to convince you hope was pointless. Those qualities now inspire your soulmate more than they can explain. For the first time, they realize they don't simply miss your presence. They miss the peace your presence brought into their life. The quiet reassurance. The gentle encouragement. The feeling that someone genuinely wanted the best for them. Those gifts cannot be replaced. And now they know it. The silence between you no longer feels comfortable. It feels incomplete. Every passing day strengthens one conviction inside them. This story cannot end with misunderstanding. It deserves truth. It deserves honesty. It deserves one final conversation where nothing remains hidden. Yet even as they prepare for that moment, something unexpected begins happening within you as well. Without realizing it, your own heart has started sensing that change is unfolding somewhere beyond what your eyes can see. The walls you've built to protect yourself feel just a little lighter. The heaviness you've carried for so long no longer feels quite as permanent. It's subtle. Almost impossible to explain. But hope often returns that way. Quietly. Patiently. Like the first light before sunrise. Neither of you fully understands why this shift is happening. Neither of you knows exactly what tomorrow will bring. But somewhere beneath the uncertainty, two hearts are beginning to move toward the same destination. Not because life has suddenly become perfect, but because truth has finally replaced misunderstanding. And when truth becomes the foundation, healing is no longer just a dream. It becomes a possibility. Still, one final choice remains. A choice your soulmate must make within the next chapter of this journey. The decision they make will determine whether this long season of silence ends with a new beginning, or becomes a lesson carried for the rest of their lives. My beloved child. As dawn approached, your soulmate found themselves standing by a window, watching the first light touch the horizon. The world outside was waking up, yet inside their heart, it felt as though an entirely new life was beginning. For the first time in a long while, they stopped asking fate for signs. Instead, they asked themselves a simple question. If I were given one more opportunity to speak from my heart, what would I say? The answer did not come immediately. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. It was honest. And honesty has a way of reaching places that perfect words never can. They imagined standing before you with nothing to hide. No pride. No excuses. No carefully crafted explanations. Only the truth. They imagined looking into your eyes and saying, I cannot change what happened. I cannot erase the moments when I failed to understand you. But I can promise that if life allows me another chance, I will never again mistake your silence for indifference. Those words never left their lips. Not yet. But they echoed through their heart with a sincerity that surprised even them. My beloved child. Love often grows strongest after illusions fall away. When two people stop trying to appear flawless and begin showing each other who they truly are, something extraordinary becomes possible. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that real love is not built on perfect moments. It is built on choosing one another after the misunderstandings have been exposed. After the pride has faded. After the truth has been spoken. That realization fills them with both hope and humility. They know they cannot demand forgiveness. They know healing cannot be rushed. Trust is not restored by a single conversation. It is restored by countless small moments of consistency. They are ready for that. Not because it will be easy, but because you are worth the effort. As they reflected on everything they had learned, another memory surfaced. It was something you once said that seemed ordinary at the time. You never really know what someone is carrying. Back then, they nodded without thinking much about it. Now those words felt like wisdom they wished they had understood sooner. Because they finally know what you meant. Every person carries invisible chapters. Every smile hides a story. Every quiet goodbye may conceal emotions too deep for language. Understanding this has changed not only the way they see you. It has changed the way they see everyone. Your journey has quietly transformed their heart into one that notices what it once overlooked. That may become one of the greatest gifts to emerge from all this pain. My beloved child. Meanwhile, life continues moving forward. Days pass. The sun rises. The stars return each night. Yet something invisible has shifted. The fear that once kept your soulmate frozen is slowly losing its power. In its place grows courage. Not loud courage. Gentle courage. The courage to admit mistakes. The courage to listen without defending. The courage to love with patience instead of expectation. They begin preparing for the moment when your paths may cross again. Not by rehearsing speeches. Not by imagining dramatic scenes. But by becoming someone whose actions speak louder than promises. They want every future choice to reflect the lesson your story has taught them. Because love deserves more than beautiful words. It deserves faithful actions. As this quiet transformation unfolds, they begin noticing something unexpected. The heaviness inside them is no longer driven only by regret. It is now accompanied by gratitude. Gratitude that the truth came before it was truly too late. Gratitude that life gave them the chance to see your heart more clearly. Gratitude that your story challenged them to become a better human being. Sometimes the greatest blessing is not escaping heartbreak. Sometimes it is allowing heartbreak to teach us compassion. That lesson is becoming part of who they are. And somewhere deep inside, they begin believing that perhaps your story together was never meant to end in misunderstanding. Perhaps every difficult chapter has been preparing both of you to meet again with greater wisdom, deeper empathy, and stronger hearts. Still, one final step remains untouched. It is the step that requires action instead of reflection. The step where thoughts become words. Where regret becomes courage. Where silence finally gives way to honesty. Your soulmate knows that moment is approaching faster than they imagined. And when it arrives, there will be no rehearsed performance. Only two hearts standing before the truth. One hoping to be heard. The other hoping to be understood. What happens in that meeting will shape everything that follows. Because sometimes a single sincere conversation can accomplish what years of silence never could. And that conversation is now closer than either of you realizes. My beloved child. There comes a moment when the heart can no longer remain a prisoner of unanswered questions. Your soulmate has reached that moment. For days, they tried to convince themselves to wait a little longer. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe after I have the perfect words. Maybe after enough time has passed. But every excuse faded beneath one undeniable truth. If they waited for the perfect moment, they might lose the opportunity to speak from the heart at all. So they made a quiet decision. Not one announced to anyone else. Not one shared with friends or family. A decision made in the silence between them and their own conscience. They would stop hiding. They would stop allowing fear to make choices that love should make. As soon as that decision settled in their heart, something unexpected happened. The burden they had been carrying suddenly felt lighter. Not because every problem had disappeared, but because they finally chose honesty over hesitation. My beloved child. The greatest battles are rarely fought in front of crowds. They are fought within the human heart. That is where your soulmate has been fighting. One voice still whispers, "What if they don't forgive you?" Another whispers, "What if you are too late?" But a stronger voice has begun rising above them both. What if the truth deserves to be spoken anyway? That voice refuses to be silenced. It reminds them that love is not measured by guarantees. It is measured by courage. Courage to speak. Courage to listen. Courage to accept whatever answer follows with humility. For the first time, they are prepared for every possibility. If healing comes, they will receive it with gratitude. If more time is needed, they will respect it. If trust must be rebuilt slowly, they will walk that road patiently. Because they finally understand something they never truly understood before. Real love is not about controlling the outcome. It is about showing up with an honest heart. As these thoughts settled within them, they picked up something they had not touched in a long time. A small reminder of you. Perhaps it was a photograph. Perhaps it was a conversation saved on their phone. Perhaps it was simply a memory that refused to fade. Whatever it was, it reminded them of something simple. You never asked them to be perfect. You only wanted them to be genuine. That realization brought an unexpected smile through their tears. They had spent so much time trying to become the perfect person. When all along, what mattered most was becoming a truthful one. My beloved child. At that very same moment, your own journey continues shaping you. The difficult seasons you endured have not made your heart incapable of love. They have made it wiser. You now recognize the value of peace. You understand that healthy love cannot grow where honesty is absent. You know that trust is built through consistent actions, not grand promises. These lessons were not easy to learn. They came through disappointment. Through waiting. Through nights when hope felt distant. Yet those experiences have prepared your heart to recognize sincerity when it appears. That is why what happens next carries such importance. This will not simply be a meeting between two people. It will be a meeting between two transformed hearts. One humbled by truth. The other strengthened by endurance. Neither of you is the same person you once were. And perhaps that is exactly why the next chapter has the potential to be different from every chapter before it. Your soulmate has finally stopped asking, "How can I make everything perfect?" Instead, they ask, "How can I honor the person they truly are?" That single change has altered everything. Because love rooted in understanding grows much deeper than love rooted in imagination. As evening falls once again, they whisper a quiet promise to themselves. No more assumptions. No more running. No more silence where honesty belongs. Those promises are not made lightly. They are made with the awareness that every future choice must reflect them. For actions will now matter far more than words. And they are ready to let those actions tell the story. My beloved child. The distance between two hearts is not always measured in miles. Sometimes it is measured in misunderstandings. Sometimes it is measured in unspoken truths. Sometimes it is measured in fear. Those distances have begun to shrink. Not because circumstances suddenly became easy. but because truth has begun building a bridge where confusion once stood. Your soulmate can feel that bridge taking shape. Step by step. Choice by choice. Prayer by prayer. And though they cannot yet see the other side clearly, they continue walking. Because some journeys are worth every uncertain step. Very soon, the silence that has lingered for so long will finally be broken. Not by coincidence. Not by pressure. But by a sincere decision to let truth speak louder than fear. When that moment arrives, neither of you will need perfect words. You will only need open hearts. And sometimes, that is more than enough. My beloved child. Every journey of the heart eventually arrives at a moment where the past no longer has the final word. This is that moment. After everything your soulmate has learned, after every sleepless night, every tear of regret, every memory revisited through the light of truth, they finally understand something that changes them forever. Love is not proven by how loudly someone speaks. It is proven by how deeply someone is willing to grow. They no longer wish to return to the people they once were. They don't want to relive the misunderstandings. They don't want to repeat the silence. They don't want to build walls where bridges should exist. Instead, they carry one quiet desire within their heart. To honor your story. Not the version they imagined. The real story. The story of someone who kept moving forward when giving up would have been easier. The story of someone who continued showing kindness even while carrying invisible burdens. The story of someone whose strength was often hidden beneath gentle words and quiet smiles. My beloved child. The truth they discovered did not destroy their love. It refined it. It removed pride. It removed assumptions. It removed the illusion that love can survive without understanding. Now they know that genuine love begins where judgment ends. That realization has become the greatest lesson of their life. As they prepare to take their next step, they are no longer chasing a perfect ending. They are choosing an honest beginning. A beginning built on listening instead of assuming. On patience instead of pressure. On faith instead of fear. Whether your paths meet tomorrow or sometime further ahead, they know one thing with certainty. If life grants another opportunity, they will never again overlook the quiet language of your heart. They will pay attention to the pauses. They will notice the moments when your smile hides exhaustion. They will ask how you are doing and they will truly wait for the answer. Because love deserves that kind of presence. And so do you. My beloved child. Remember this truth, no matter where you are in your own journey. The chapters that cause the deepest pain do not have to become the final chapters of your story. Every season teaches something. Some seasons teach patience. Some teach courage. Some teach forgiveness. And some teach us to recognize the extraordinary value of hearts that quietly love without asking for recognition. Never believe that your unseen strength was meaningless. Never believe that your quiet perseverance went unnoticed forever. The compassion you showed. The hope you protected. The kindness you offered. Those things have left a mark far greater than you realize. Nothing given in genuine love is ever wasted. Its shapes lives in ways that are often understood only much later. My beloved child. If this story has touched your heart, let it remind you of something important. Do not assume you know the battles another person is fighting. Choose understanding before judgment. Choose kindness before conclusions. Choose conversations before silence. Sometimes a single act of compassion changes the direction of an entire life. And sometimes the courage to speak honestly becomes the beginning of healing for two hearts that once believed they were too far apart. No matter what tomorrow brings, never lose the ability to love with wisdom, to forgive with discernment, and to hope with courage. Keep walking forward. Keep becoming the person you were created to be. Let your heart remain gentle, but let it also become strong. The future is not written only by yesterday's mistakes. It is also shaped by today's choices. May peace replace every restless thought. May hope rise where disappointment once lived. May wisdom guide every decision you make. May your heart be surrounded by love that is honest, patient, and faithful. And may you always remember that even after the darkest night, the sunrise never forgets to come. May blessings surround your path, fill your home with peace, strengthen your spirit, and remind you each day that brighter chapters are always possible. Thank you for spending these moments with me. If this message encouraged your heart, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need this reminder today. Until we meet again, may peace, hope, and abundant blessings be with you always. Amen.